Tonight, we are honored to have with us Bibb County Superintendent Dr. Dan Sims. Now, not only is he here to talk about getting back to school, but Dr. Sims, this is your first year as superintendent in Bibb County.
Yes, it is, and thank you so much for having me. It is extremely exciting to not only be superintendent of Bibb County Schools, but to live in Macon.
Yes, sir.
I've already fallen in love with this city, and just excited about the opportunity to be that major voice for our students and for our families, to make sure that all of our educators are ready to do the best job possible every single day, and that we can make this partnership between us and the whole community for the betterment of all of our children.
Dr. Sims, let's talk a little bit about your background, where you come from, and the experience you bring to the position.
Sure. Well, I hail from Atlanta, Georgia. Spent the majority of my career in East Point, Georgia. Actually, was a teacher, math teacher, assistant principal, and principal at the middle school and high school I attended as a child. So if anything, my career is built on giving back to the community that it gave to me. So that's a core of who I am. I spent some central office time as an associate superintendent in the Atlanta public school system, and that allowed me the great space and chance to work with schools on all levels, departments on all levels, and really develop that district perspective that I needed to add to a strong school-based perspective to fully understand what it means to now be the superintendent of schools. Those 27 years have been invaluable in terms of getting me ready.
Yes, sir. And speaking of being ready, I know that you have a special initiative or campaign this year called Built for Bibb.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about it.
So initially, Built for Bibb started out as an individual piece, in that it was my way of saying that my experiences, my talents, my passion, my heart, everything that I've become over my entire life has built me for the superintendency of Bibb County Schools. However, as I thought about it, I concluded that everybody needs to be built for the needs of our students, hence Built for Bibb. So the big campaign is that everybody's talents, everybody's experiences, their training, their perspectives, their heart needs to be built to meet the specified needs of all of our students. So we'll spend time over the course of at least the next 3 years in order to ensure that everybody not only understands the needs of our students, but now they get themselves trained and built up to meet those needs, so that we're not just doing pie in the sky, things out of a hat initiatives, but these initiatives, our programs, our everyday instruction in every single classroom for every single student is designed to meet the needs of our students.
Dr. Sims, you know, it's great to see your enthusiasm. I know you're already excited about the first day of school and getting started here, but one of the things that has been on a lot of people's mind, and parents particularly since Uvalde, is school safety. What do you think that we can do more, not necessarily just Bibb, but Bibb and other school districts, to ensure kids' safety? And what would you say to parents as they are a little nervous these days about sending their children to school?
Yeah, so I definitely understand the feeling of nervousness among our students, among our families. I'm a parent as well, and every single day I send my children out to school, I am trusting that they are going to the safest environment possible. So I think one of the things that we can do is make sure that all parents, all students understand the procedures and protocols that we have in place in order to promote safety. Something as simple in Bibb County as a dual entry system where people have to buzz in. Something as simple as not leaving doors propped, which is everybody's responsibility. Those little bitty things are so important in terms of, one, people knowing about them, but two, knowing that they play a part in making sure that the procedures and the protocols we have in place are indeed being implemented effectively. In terms of students, we want to make sure that every single student, when they come to school, they bring only what they need for school and no additional materials, if you will. So mesh book bags, clear ways to be able to quickly scan a student and make sure that we, number one, know that he or she belongs in the building, and number two, he or she has only what he or she needs and nothing that's going to compromise the safety of everybody. I think on the community side, including families, everybody has to take a part in school safety. School safety does not start at the school. It doesn't end at the school. It is an extension of a broader community concern as far as school safety is concerned. And we want to make sure that as we promote safety in the community, safety inside the school, that everybody has a lens to be able to look for those indicators, look for somebody out of place, look for doors that aren't properly closed. Look for what's happening inside the community that may seep itself into the school, and then make sure that we communicate in such a way that we empower students to speak up, parents and community members to speak up, and let people know, let our authorities know what's happening. As I think about Uvalde, and it just hurts my heart to watch the videos of opportunities that were missed. We don't want to be in those spaces. So it's so important that everybody is empowered to know how they play a part in school safety, which is bigger than the school.
And Dr. Sims, just to be clear too, our parents out there are already policies that the Bibb School District does have in place where safety's concerned, because you said making sure we have them in place, but of course I know there are a lot of things already in place, but I guess part of your job as you come in now is looking at ways of maybe even beefing up those measures.
Absolutely. Actually, we've already done some of that.
Yes,
I'm thinking of the right name. I think it's called Navigate 360, but I can tell you exactly what it does. It is a threat assessment system where it is in its own electronically intricate way helps us to assess threats and then subsequently respond in such a way that we can minimize any threats that may be present. And we look forward to implementing that in addition to, again, ensuring all of our protocols that people already know about, they're reminded of them. Another thing we want to do to beef up safety is to make sure that we have at least monthly reminders to the people who are most responsible for our students from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that is our employees. Again, thinking about Uvalde, I just wonder what some reminders may have done to perhaps minimize what happened to those precious babies. But we want to make sure that everybody stays in the know regarding what those issues are, what those reminders are.
And Dr. Sims, if I'm not mistaken, right before you came on board, the district decided to change the dress code, and part of that was the clear book bags that you mentioned earlier, and so that they're see-through, you can see what students are carrying. There was some pushback from parents about a change in dress code, but that, if I'm understanding correctly, all falls in line with school safety as well.
It actually does. You know, I'm thinking back to my principal days. It was so easy to identify a person out of place based on procedures and rules that we had in place. So what I want parents to see and understand that when we put certain standards and protocols in place, it actually helps us to keep students safer. It helps us to keep the right people in the building, quickly identify anybody who may be out of place, and to react in such a way that it helps promote greater safety for everybody.
Dr. Sims, along those lines, how do you think that we might do a better job as educators across the board of keeping weapons out of school, and even going a little bit further than just weapons, things like the Delta 8 pens, the vaping pens that have grown so popular among teens that we don't want them to have? Yeah,
so I think we first need to remember that the schoolhouse is a part of the broader community. In terms of keeping these things out of the school, that has to be a piece that the community and the school stay in close communication with, in two terms. One, in terms of identifying when vaping pens, weapons find themselves in our community and in our schools. Having quick protocols in place, a level of trust between the student and teachers, and when you have that level of trust, students will let you know when things are not right in terms of weapons or anything else illegal inside of a school. The second piece concerns ensuring that everybody is aware of what's happening to their left and to their right at any time inside the community. But also getting on the same page with us in that the schoolhouse is the only place on this earth that spends as much time as we spend in the most waking hours of the day with as many students as we do. So if anything, that ought to be the safest place that people are able to come. So the more that we're able to communicate with each other about what's going on, the more that we're able to get on the same page regarding issues that happen in the community. You're actually making me think about a rally I just attended this past weekend. That was a Stop the Violence rally. So we had pastors, the coroner, police officials, a board member, and parents in the community all gathered together to talk about the issue of violence inside the community, which included the school. So the more we do do those types of things, I think we're going to keep ourselves ahead of the game in tuning everybody's mind to know exactly what we expect, why we expect it, and then to speak up when things are outside those expectations.
And speaking along those lines, Dr. Sims, mental health is such a big topic for all Americans, but the stresses that kids deal with are sometimes very unique to them. How can we help promote better mental health for our students and for our teachers? Yeah,
so I will say that is everybody's responsibility, first of all. It is important to be able to see and move on indicators. One of the things that we've done as a school district, and many other school districts have done, is that we've engaged in behavioral assessments that will help us understand where a student is and to put them at a certain level of concern, and then subsequently give them the services and the support that they need, whether it is an attendance concern, external behaviors, internal behaviors, things that students are showing us, or even adults, where there needs to be a level of support. So we're in a space and place where we are working with different providers of mental health services to ensure that not only students, but teachers have that level of support. So those assessment systems definitely help out along that line.
Dr. Sims, if there's a parent at home, and we hope this doesn't happen, but unfortunately it does happen to kids a lot, as far as bullying by their peers or something going on that shouldn't, what would you encourage a parent to do, or even a student who feels like they're being mistreated? What should they do inside the Bibb School District to get the right help and resources? Yeah, so
a precursor to that issue is ensuring that every single student has at least one trusted adult they can go to for anything. So we encourage students to identify and go to that adult and let that adult know. And then the adult bears the burden of ensuring that administration, counselors, or whoever knows about the bullying issue so that we can get to the table to hopefully solve the problem. When I think about students and bullying, a lot of that is just an indicator of students struggling in their growth and development. And when we start bullying each other, it requires us as adults to sit down and redirect those students. We don't want to overly punish students, but we do want to stop bullying in its tracks. And that requires a level of understanding where students are, opening up those opportunities to talk to adults, and then sitting down with as many parties, ideally the parents on both sides, so that we can fully rectify the situation and make both students whole. The bullier is not whole. The one being bullied is not whole. So I think it's on both sides to ensure that we intervene to solve that matter.
You make a great point there, and Dr. Sims, that kind of goes back to what you were talking about. It takes the community coming together. It's a responsibility we all share off the campus as parents. Parents have to look out, community members, we all have to work together to do what's best for our children in all ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of my big effort as the superintendent is to pull everybody together to truly be built for Bibb, that we're all aligned in what we need to do, whether we are a rec center, Popeyes down the street. I hope I'm not getting in trouble for promoting Popeyes.
No.
They were just the first ones came to my mind.
You're making me want to go get some chicken.
There we go. There we go.
Sandwiches.
I'll go with you. How about it? Our faith-based organizations, that everybody finds their way to contribute to the needs of our students, but pull it together as a whole so that the students can look to their left and their right and be able to say resoundingly, everybody loves and cares for me.
And that is special indeed. That's a wonderful thing to work toward. Another thing that I know that educators struggle with these days is a high turnover rate among teachers. We see teachers come and go in all districts, not just Bibb. What do you think as superintendent that you might do to recruit and keep quality teachers here?
So I'll approach that from two angles. One, it's just a reminder that we are indeed a human organization. So while we hire teachers, we're hiring human beings. Somebody's mother, somebody's father, somebody's husband, wife, brother, sister, son, daughter. That's a human being. So there has to be an element of our practice that treats each one of our employees like a human being. A core slogan that I live by is two words: value people. So we need to make sure that we have value-based practices in place so that when people come to work, they feel like their work, their dignity, their presence is indeed valued. And research shows us when people feel valued at work, they will run through brick walls for you. And they come and they feel a sense of belonging. It just helps as far as teacher burnout is concerned. What we discovered during COVID, is that people were already struggling. It just exacerbated the struggling that was taking place. So making sure that people feel valued is so critical. A second piece just has to do with treating people right by way of pay. I think it's important to consider compensation as another way to ensure that people feel like they are a part of an organization where they're truly valued, that the work that they put forward is being duly compensated for. So combining those two, but really focusing on your greatest resource as a district, and that is your human resource. You have to take care of it. The same way that with our phones, I won't drop this phone because it's valuable. So if I put myself in a place where I drop a teacher, or I drop a custodian, or drop a school nutrition worker in terms of how I treat him or her, the worst damage can be done to that person. And I think sometimes we miss the importance of just taking care of people, just as people.
That's a wonderful sentiment. And Dr. Sims, this one is a kind of a personal question, if I may ask. I know that when you were first hired, you knew that there was a little bit of controversy, that some people, not everyone said hire Dr. Sims. But here you are. How do you plan to win everyone over, or what are your thoughts right now? It seems that you're all in, it seems to me. How do you do that knowing that not everybody said we want to hire him?
Well, one of the things that I've learned over 27 years is that everybody's not going to be on the same page. However, we are a school district, and our core priority are our students. So number one, I plan to keep a students first focus. Number two, when I applied as myself. When I interviewed as myself. Up to this day, I've been myself, and I really just plan to be myself. I consider myself to be a person who is very personable. I'm about people. I don't apologize about what I know how to do, and I don't mind stepping forward to do what I know to do best, and that is lead in the educational system. So I'll just spend time connecting with as many people as possible, getting them to see the authentic me. I understand that people perhaps were on one page not knowing who I was. All I was a name on a paper, this dude from Atlanta, and this application that you saw. But now here I am. So now let me connect with everybody I possibly can, and let's ask ourselves the hard questions, get to know me better, see me in the streets, see my engagement and involvement throughout this community, and then make your determination from there.
Dr. Sims, what you just said, you were yourself during the application process. How can we help our children love themselves more? Well, I mean, that's something that you see a lot of kids struggling with, an identity crisis of some sort, whether it be something they're going through with their families or what have you. But, you know, children sometimes lose that sense of self, or don't want to let their selves shine through.
I tell you what I think happens to students, and I'll use two words: me, learning. So up to a certain point in your educational career, from pre-kindergarten up to 5th grade, 6th grade, it's all about me learning math. Me learning how to read, me learning how to write, me learning social studies. But at some point in one's career, those two words switch, and it becomes learning me. That is the crossroads where I believe we lose students. All of us go through a phase of life where we start learning ourselves more. And it is incumbent upon not just the school, but the entire community to be front and center when students start learning who they are. I think about myself. I became a mathematics teacher, but guess where that started? That started when I was a first grade student going to the store with my friends to help them count their money. It started with going to detention in first grade because I misbehaved, and the assignment I was given was an 80 question worksheet, and I had the time of my life. So me learning me in terms of my love for math started very early, and then of course it got cultivated later on. That is the space where we have to start helping kids to identify who they are, but then, to your point, start feeling good about it. And you have to have adults around you to point it out for you, help cultivate it, and then pull it out of you. And I think the earlier we start, as soon as students start learning who they are, we have to be right there, ready to receive them.
Dr. Sims, we were talking earlier about teacher pay and valuing people, but one thing we have noticed as a trend in the educational industry for public schools, we're seeing a drop-off somewhat, people choosing private schools, the parents who can afford it because of safety concerns or learning concerns, whatever they may be. Does it worry you that the state will lose funding for public education? And if so, what trend do you see going in that area?
So I will say, to some extent it does, only in terms of our responsibility as a public education entity to communicate the choices and the value that we bring as an option for parents. At the end of the day, we have to respect the fact that parents now have more options than they did before. So we bear the burden of being the ones to ensure that they know that we have international baccalaureate programs. We have a college and career academy. We're able to help funnel students to these different universities and colleges right around the corner and abroad. And that if we don't take time to clearly communicate who we are as a district, then we have to kind of put it on our own backs as it relates to the burden of people not knowing who we actually are. What we want to do is the same thing that private schools and state charters and other schools want to do, is present the best product and encourage parents to make the best decision for their students. Now, we hope that every parent makes their choice to come to a Bibb County public school, but we bear the burden of making sure that they have good, clear, compelling information about who we are, who we produce, the success rate that we have, and how we continue that success.
Dr. Sims, and I want to tell you this next question. We want you parents to be sure you're paying attention to this, because it's easy for us to talk about what we expect of the children, what we want the students to do. But what do we expect of parents and guardians? How can they be their best to help you all at the school do your best? What do they need to keep in mind?
So I have this phrase I've used for years, which simply says to parents and families, if you take care of one of them, we will take care of all of them. COVID showed us something that we normally didn't say prior to going into the pandemic. We used to always say, well, we can't control what happens in the home. And then COVID hit. And guess what? We controlled what happened inside everybody's home. The classroom became the living room, the bedroom, and we stayed on screen for almost 2 years. But what we discovered as a result of that is that there have been some missed opportunities in terms of empowering the home to support a student in his or her learning needs, whether he or she is a high or low performer, and what the school can continue to do, so that now we produce this anywhere, anytime learning opportunity for every student. So what we need from parents is to get as much as possible on the same page with the school in terms of the needs first of their student. I'm going to push all of our schools to be in a space and place to tell every single parent what he or she can do, or guardian what he or she can do for said student at home, so that we can accelerate learning for every single student. So it's just incumbent upon the parent to do that first. Secondly, I need for every single parent to take themselves back as far as they need to when they were kids, or to their grandparents' days, and remember that time when the community truly looked out for everybody. It's going to take some time to get back there, but everybody always talks about how that works. So if it works, and it worked for us, why can't we use this for our student? There are some walls we have to break down to make that happen. But if we truly love and care for Macon-Bibb County, if we truly care and love every single student, we have to find a way to have that individual approach and the collective approach, so that everybody can be successful. And it gets down to my definition of schooling. It's so simple. My definition of schooling is a consistent function where big people work with little people to make better people for all the people. And that's everybody's responsibility. So that's in a nutshell what I need from parents and guardians.
I wanted to ask you this too. You know, before the first day of school, I was one of those that always had butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
Now, this first day of school for you is your first time leading a district on your own, first time in Bibb, a lot of firsts for you. Do you have those butterflies?
To some extent, I do. I will tell you, this has been a faith walk from the minute I pressed submit on the application. Immediately following submitting that application, I got in the car with my wife. We drove countless hours through Macon-Bibb County, visited almost every single school except for 2, drove down streets. I took notes, copious notes on what I saw, and I took internal notes on what I felt to build myself up for the opportunity to possibly be the superintendent of Macon-Bibb County. That has helped my butterflies, but there's nothing like the first day of school. And there's nothing like the first day of school in whatever new role you serve in. So you best believe I have butterflies, but they're those good butterflies, because I'm so eager to see students walk back into classrooms, eager to see them learning and eating lunch and playing on just being kids. But at the same time, I'm eager to see what we're able to do, all of our adults, with those kids in our hands. and I can't wait. So those butterflies are anticipation of the great things I know we can do if we work together.
Here's wishing you, Dr. Sims, and all of our students, parents, faculty, staff, administrators, a wonderful school year ahead. Thank you for your time, and thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.